institutions. They are feeding the school to prison pipeline.
Right, and I mean that's been one of your strong messages, and I tapped into it pretty early, just based off of feeling like I was almost a part of that pipeline. Somebody that second grade diagnosed with ADHD, and was. My family was challenged to put me on some type of medication, but otherwise they gave me some. It was interesting. They gave me another type of test that I actually scored the third highest in the nation. Woo. And then so from that process of thinking like something might be wrong with this child, it then implemented me into the GATE program in California with the Gifted and Talented Education.
Absolutely.
And from there, even my grandmother having that foresight that, man, maybe if we challenge him, and he won't act out in that certain way. So beginning to getting me involved in everything from, other languages and music, and for there, it's like it's a simple concept for me. It's like a lot of us we don't have learning disabilities, but we're so far advanced,
absolutely,
in our understanding and our movement that we're just not challenged.
Absolutely. In fact, you just basically explain what's really going on with black boys and so-called ADHD. It's not an overactive brain. It's above average intelligence.
Yeah.
You see, the issue is that public school is not designed to identify black boys who are gifted. The gifted movement was started in the aftermath of school desegregation, 1954, to resegregate black kids from white kids. So after the Supreme Court said you can't use race to separate the students anymore, white power said, well, we need a new excuse.
Right.
So they invented the mentally gifted movement.
Right.
So instead of saying we're putting the black child in a separate class or putting the white child in a separate class because they're black or white, we're excluding the white kid from the black class because they're too intelligent. So it's not about race.
Wow.
It's about intelligence.
Right.
So MG became the new strategy to resegregate the students.
Wow.
You see?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if we're using giftedness to explain away black kids away from the white kids, we can't possibly use giftedness to help support black children.
Right.
You see?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the problem with MG, Nick, is that not all the white kids are gifted either.
Right,
You
right.
see?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
even though you were helping some of them get out, a lot of them weren't smart enough to qualify for MG.
Right.
So then they had another problem. They said, well, what about the ones who don't make it?
Right.
We still don't want them learning with the black kids.
Right.
So that's when they invented the learning disability. But in my work, at least half the black boys I've ever evaluated were mentally gifted, not ADHD.
Yeah.
But the school has a one-track mind. They are trained to look for problems, not talents.
Right.
One more point to that. Mental giftedness used to be part of special ed law. That means what? Special ed is money.
Right.
Whenever I say a kid is retarded, autistic, emotionally disturbed, reading disabled, math disabled, their name goes into a computer. That goes to the State Department of Education. They get a welfare check by the end of the month for that child. That school does.
The school does.
Special ed is money.
Right.
Special ed is money. It ain't about helping nobody.
Wow.
Now, gifted used to be in there. That
Right.
means what? When you were tested for gifted and qualified,
Right.
your school district got money for you.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
But when former President George W. Bush reauthorized special ed law in 2004, actually before he reauthorized it, back in 97, I want to say, they took MG out of special ed law. That means what? You no longer get paid
Money, yeah.
for identifying smart black children.
Right.
Since they've taken that out, if you look at the gifted rates of black kids,
Yeah.
it's almost non-existent.
Wow.
Retarded up here, reading disabled up here, ADHD up here, MG all the way down here. And it's even worse now because they're not being subsidized to find the talented black boys.
Wow. So that brings up an interesting point that you discuss in your book about labeling.